All right, what is going on YouTube? Today we're taking a look at two made in America Bowie knives. The Case and the Ontario. Very different knives, have some similarities. So we're going to compare the two right here on top of my workbench. So first up, we're going to just look at this box that the Case Bowie knife comes with. I don't have the OKC one to compare, but there's no comparison there. It was just a plain black box that had their logo on it. But this one, man, it's got the portrait of Jim Bowie and the Alamo here in the background. We got Case XX, WR Case & Sons Cutlery Company, handcrafted knife since 1889, Bowie fixed blade hunting knife. So it's just it's a box worth keeping. Does this have like a MSRP price on it? No, it doesn't. But MSRP, these were like 200 bucks. Now they once sold for cheaper than that at retailers, 130-ish at one time when I got it, some years back now. But you know, the namesake of the knife right there on the box doesn't get much more iconic than that. Now let's take a look at the knives. Here they are in their sheaths. You know, blade, the profiles here, in the sheath. You know, you can tell the Ontario is a bit bigger. You know, another you know, about 2 inches or so in overall length. The sheaths, the Case, we got this beautiful checkered leather here. Good thickness to that leather. Very beautiful and well-made sheath. Ontario, we got Molly compatible nylon here, which, you know, that's good. You can hook that into your Molly strapping on your go bag there if you want, or your hiking bag, whatever you choose to call it. They have this really short, silly piece of shoestring here. Not much of a leg lanyard, but it comes with it, so I kept it there on the sheath. It also has, you know, retention straps here, belt loop, and has a hard plastic insert. Now, when you compare the two, you have beauty and function with the Case. You just have function with the Ontario. It holds the knife inside of it, which is a sheath is meant to do, but it's nice to have a little beautification on it with the Case. So let's take them out of the sheaths here. And set the sheaths aside. Get the blades out. Okay, so we actually have a very similar blade length, if not the same. Let's see if we can line them up there. Now the handle on the Ontario is a bit longer, and that's the one downfall of the Case. If you have big hands, this handle might be a bit too small for you. So this is made of Case's True Sharp stainless steel. This is 1075 from Ontario. Most of the time they were made in 1095, but they switched to 1075 towards their end, because as you may or may not know, Ontario knives is kind of no more, or at least in limbo for the past year and a half. See what the future of their namesake will be. So this one has a more pronounced clip here. This one, the Case, goes down a bit more gradually. A higher grind on the Ontario, much more shallow, shorter bevel here on the Case. So in theory, the Ontario should be the better slicer, but there'll be a bit more meat behind the edge of the Case. Large brass guard here, shorter steel guard here. A lot of these Ontario SP knives would have just rubber here as the guard, but this Bowie is steel. Nice rubberized grip. Really like that a lot. Really like rubber grips. This is some sort of smooth synthetic. Probably the same material that you'll see on case other synthetic knives like Sodbuster and whatnot. Now the thickness of the knives is quite different. Full 1/4 inch on the Ontario and 3/16 or so for the case. So this will be a little bit thinner. Now the case, this design goes back to World War II, the V44 Marine Raider Bowie. And if you know any World War II history, you'll know the Marine Corps spent a lot of time in the Pacific theater of World War II. And those islands out there, they got a lot of brush, we'll say, tall grass that you might want to chop through. So this thinner stock would be better suited toward that type of task that you may think of more machete type tasks than a big chopping, honking, skull splitting 1/4 inch thick Bowie knife like the Ontario. Now the Ontario was quite the price difference from the case. So before Ontario went bankrupt, you could buy this knife for $60. And they were cheaper than that at other points throughout the life of Ontario Knife Company. Now, there are pros and cons of having stainless steel and carbon steel. You know, the obvious being the carbon steel will rust quite easily compared to the stainless. Now, I would say Case's stainless steel is pretty tough. There are hard use videos of this Bowie knife out on YouTube. And a lot of people will say that Case's True Sharp stainless steel is a 420 HC, which is actually a pretty tough steel on the toughness scale. Tougher than this even. So maybe they have to add that thicker stock to make up for some of that, more brittleness in the steel for this. Now, overall looks. So this one is a pretty knife. This one is a badass knife. To put it short, I mean, this one is just wicked. It's got a great tip on it. The tip on the case is a bit more blunt. Of course, you could probably sharpen that more, to each their own. But, that's how they come. Ontario is notorious for having a terrible thick dull edge on their knives. This one didn't come too bad. I did sharpen it up a bit, but not as bad as some other Ontario knives. Now the grip, the Ontario definitely wins hands down on the grip. This nice rubber and the extra room. I mean, I don't have big hands, so I mean, I barely can fit my hand comfortably in the case, but it does fit, and you can use this rear pillion here to put your fingers back for those chopping tasks. I wouldn't do that as much on the Ontario. You can, but this is just rubber right here, so there is some flexibility. But I think with the heavier stock, you don't need to choke back, really. I mean, you don't necessarily need to on the case either, but if you want to, there's definitely some more comfort there. Now, for that type of choking back and chopping, the Ontario does have a lanyard hole to put a lanyard around your wrist to aid you in securing that grip when chopping. The case does not. That could be an added feature. You could probably drill a lanyard hole right through there and there'd be no problem at all. So that about does it for this comparison, guys. Hopefully you liked seeing these two classic American-made Bowie knives. side by side.